But in a nutshell, the Green New Deal would eliminate all fossil fuel use from the electric grid by 2030. By 2030, forcing Americans to use much more expensive and much less reliable energy sources such as wind and solar. Well, let's be honest with you. When we had our polar vortex last week, at certain temperatures, those wind turbines can't turn. Mm-hmm. They got to be stopped. Otherwise, they risk flying off and breaking and causing all kinds of havoc. So polar vortex time, a couple of snowstorm with it to cover your solar panels. How are you going to heat your home?
Or the overcast.
Or just overcast days. How are you going to heat America's northern homes?
There's this naturally occurring phenomenon called nighttime. Now, if we can eliminate nighttime, we need to work. There needs to be a government committee to eliminate nighttime, not daylight savings time. Just
Well, let's just be honest, because there is absolutely nothing that the technology is not there. I know it's a lovely idea. I wish we could all put solar panels out, drive our cars with it, heat our homes, run our factories. I wish that were true too. I do. I want that unicorn universe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's just not here yet, folks. We don't have the technology. We don't get enough from the current solar panel technology to do it right
And
now.
we don't have the storage. Think of the number of lead-acid batteries or lithium that's going to catch on fire if that's what you want,
That's what's keeping our car industry from going electric car. Electric cars are great. The technology's great. Battery is a problem. Mm-hmm. You can't store it long enough. You can't get enough mileage.
You can't dispose of them well either.
You can't charge them up fast enough. The technology is just not there. Not saying we shouldn't use it where we can use it to supplement the grid and do what I don't want to pollute.
Be smart.
Yeah, I don't want to pollute more than we have to. But here in America, our coal industry, our natural gas industry for producing electricity is top notch in the world. We don't pollute like everyone else does. Let's take a quick call from Tom. Wanted to hit back on the State of the Union real quick. Tom, welcome to the show.
Yeah, first I wanted to real quick you were talking about that green revolution, which basically I think that it's some kind of a distraction. I remember when I used to, drink, and man, we became geniuses. We could always figure out how to save the world, But then the next day you forget.
I did that on dope,
She must have memorized all that stuff, and now, now she's got the genius answer, and there it is,
Yeah.
But, I think, and I'm serious as a heart attack, I like internal combustion engines and things like that. I work on motorcycles, what have you. And I think that alcohol fuel is, there's a guy named David Bloom, B-L-U-M-E. I've heard a lot of his interviews. He's been in the business a long time, and he's done a lot of stuff using alcohol in internal combustion engines. He also suggested in third world countries, actually half of the world is cooking, indoors using everything from wood chips to dung. And it causes a lot of health problems. He said, people, if they were able to set up alcohol plants and use it for cooking, it would really improve a lot.
Sounds like ethanol.
Yeah, but let me ask you. So when it comes to alcohol, let me ask you this first, because I've noticed, and for my small engines, my little lawnmower, my outboard motor on my pontoon boat, my old pontoon boat, I have to use the alcohol-free gas. Go and find that because it runs so much better. What is it, Tom, that makes alcohol not work in some engines or make them run bad?
Well, if you run, the more alcohol you run, you have to retard the timing a little bit, and you have to have bigger jets in the carburetor because there's just more energy in a gallon of gasoline than there is in a gallon of alcohol. But on the upside, you can run a lot higher compression, and also the engine does not wear because there's no carbon in the alcohol, so that the oil doesn't turn black. And I've heard interviews of this guy I mentioned, David Bloom, and I just, he's got all the answers, and all I'm saying is this is something that I think should be researched because individual communities can have their own little co-ops. There's a federal permit and it's a free permit. All you do is fill out the forms. You have to qualify, like you have to have a locked, gated yard. But you can make a 5,000 gallons of alcohol per year without paying. And as long as you don't drink it, you don't have to pay the alcohol tax. the IRS used to give a credit. One of the reasons I think that, gas prices haven't shot up too much is because the oil companies are trying to put the alcohol companies out of business. One other thing about using corn for alcohol, they're going to get about 300 gallons per acre of alcohol from corn. But there's other things like, for instance, cattails, where they get thousands of gallons per acre. I had it written down the exact number here, and I don't see it.
Well, that's one I'm going to. That'll be one I'll have to look up. Well, great comments, Tom. You left me.
And the
left me
State of the
scratching my
Union.
head.
I was going to offer to fill in for Trump, and I was just wanted to say that, hey, my numbers are that the deficits are up 51% in this country, and we're over $22 trillion in debt. We can't hardly afford to pay the interest with the the IRS income tax revenues, and so I mean that's the state of our union. But I guess that gets by him every time a president gives a State of the Union. It's a political grandstanding rather than the real nuts and bolts of what we're facing.
Yeah. Well, great comments, Tom. I appreciate the call.
Thanks for taking my call, guys.
Have a good one. Let's take a call from Tim in Westland. Tim wants to talk about Miss Cortez. Tim, go ahead.
Yeah, that's a wonderful plan she has, if you're into comedy. I found it rather hilarious. But in the Constitution, there's a ban on religious tests for officers and everybody involved in government. What would you guys think about an amendment for a constitutional test for people running for office? Because to just come out with, and this thing's just a silly resolution, you may as well have written it on a
napkin.
On a napkin.
Let's say have them take a citizenship test. That would cover that, right? Have them take the same citizenship test that a naturalized citizen would have to take.
Do they actually teach civics classes anymore in high school?
No, it's called social studies.
I haven't
They've renamed it for that reason.
Plus years, so I wouldn't know.
Yeah. Well, they obviously should go back to teaching some Constitution and some civics, because obviously they're the young people, and she's capable of, or the perfect example of not understanding the Constitution.
Do you guys know, is she a college graduate? Did she go to college?
She has a degree. She has a degree in economics. There's something that makes me think, and I've heard some other people say something similar, that she's a fraud, that she's basically there as a stalking horse or misdirection. Something else is going on. Either she's a flag they're floating to see how many people would follow that flag, or there's something else going along that we're laughing at her and they're doing something while we're laughing at her. And I don't know what it is.
I completely agree with that. But if she is a college graduate, I think she's got a case for malpractice.
Exactly.
Yeah. Exactly. She ought to get her money back.
Yeah. For an economics professor, she knows, or economics degree, she knows nothing.
Well, she was a bartender, right? She was a bartender in the Bronx.
Hey, I was a bartender once.
Well, she knows
most bartenders know more.
Exactly. All right. Well, great call, Tim. Appreciate it.
Who we got next?
I'm not sure yet.
I would like to say something.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so one of the justifications for this new Green Deal, she lists them out in the, whereas, all these whereases. And one of the justifications is, whereas the United States has historically been responsible for a disproportionate amount of greenhouse gas emissions, having emitted 20% of global greenhouse gas emissions through 2014. And as a high technological capacity, the United States must take a leading role in reducing emissions through economic transformation. Now, that's flat out false. It's China and India that's putting out the CO2, not the United States.
Right.
So right off the bat, that's based on there's a number of false premises in here.
Well, I'll take umbrage just on the CO2 issue.
Okay.
Come on. You cannot put into a model and call it static, right? The more CO2 you put into the air, and you look through the geologic record, the more CO2 you put in the air, the more the plants grow, the plants make more oxygen, so it swings one way or the other. I mean, the Carboniferous era, right, when you had ferns that were 10, 12 feet tall, right? plants grow bigger when they've got more CO2, and in exchange, put more oxygen back in it. It's not. These people that want to call CO2, you want to talk monoxide and sulfur dioxide and all these other poisons that come out of our factories or our cars. I'm fine. Let's deal with those issues. I don't want to pollute the environment any more than anyone else. But don't tell me that the CO2 I'm breathing and my cows are breathing or my cat or dog is breathing is causing global warming. And let's face it. The global warming is nonsense anyways. It's not global warming.
All right.
You want to, it's not global, now it's climate change. Well, the climate's been changing for 4 billion years on this planet.
It's weather.
Enough.
It's weather.
It's called weather. Yeah, exactly. Let's take a call from Ken in Livonia. Ken, welcome to the show.
Yeah, I just want to say regarding this Andreas Cortez, is that her name, if I'm getting it right?
Alexander Cortez.
Okay, Cortez. Well, I'm praying, and of course I'm hoping that time will mature her, because when I was her age, I was just as big as a moron, an idiot, and nincompoop as she is. I mean, when I was her age, I was a bleeding heart Democrat, bleeding heart liberal, pro-abortion, the whole shebang. But then as I got a little bit older, I started realizing my conscience started speaking to me. First, looking around me, my conscience said, man, obviously a creator had to create everything. This universe around us didn't come around by accident. And then I actually started to read the Bible, a book that I thought was definitely man-made until I read it. And then when I looked at the moral teachings of Jesus and of all the moral teachings throughout the Bible, such as marriage and loving your enemy and things like that, it's like a bolt of lightning struck. And now I'm a Bible-believing Christian that has completely changed his direction.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, the only thing I could hope is that she and people like her grow up.
Yeah, I would hope that too. I would hope that too, Ken. But then, how do we explain Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi?
Yeah,
obviously they're still not growing up. They're still living in whatever fantasy world, unicorns and rainbows.
Well, there are those who will never grow up. I mean, Psalm 14 verse 1 says, "The fool in his heart believes there's no God." And what I attribute to those two people you mentioned, I have a sister, and late 60s. She still is a bleeding heart Democrat. And when my explanation is you have two kinds of people. You have those who are capable of thinking rationally, thinking intellectually. And then you have the other kind that the way they think is pure emotion.
Yep, that's Democrats.
That
Democrats.
you can give all the facts that you want, and they won't budge. And see, that's why, piggybacking at something you guys were talking about, I think we need to do a better job at, let's have a test to check out your intellect for voting. Because if you're one of these that votes with your emotion, I don't think you should be allowed to vote.
Yeah. Well, great points, Ken. Well, I appreciate the call, man.
Well, you guys take it easy.
Have a good one. Let's take a call from Alex in Plymouth. Alex, welcome to the show.
Hey, Gary. Hey, Ed. Good to talk to you guys. I was thinking that your voice sounded a little bit like that old radio show, late night Pillow Talk. I might be wrong.
Alan Allman or something like that.
I think that was it. That was it.
Yeah,
but not that I ever listened.
But anyway.
Great. Okay. Pillow Talk. All right.
Okay. Anyway, if I sound like Al Gore, you sound like the guy from Pillow Talk. But anyway.
What else you got, Alex? You want to talk about the Green Deal?
Yeah, right. Well, it's sort of funny that they want to get there by 2030, and I think that sort of corresponds with the UN Agenda 2030. So I don't know if there's a tie-in, but it's sort of suspicious.
What a coincidence!
Yeah, right. And also, people. It seems like Ocasio Cortez or whatever you called her. Mm-hmm. it seems like she's sort of lost the lessons of what France had just recently gone through and is going through when they try to be more eco-friendly and increase the cost of diesel fuel there.